Meanwhile, in New Jersey...
So, Marissa, what talking points do you want to hit on in this week's episode?
Well, Jackie, let's talk about how the film addresses the patriarchy. Ooh, and representation of marginalized people. Ooh, and even philosophical ramifications of good versus evil in horror.
We can point out the triangle boobs, talk about the blood splatter, and the practical effects. And also the male gaze?
My gaze at the males.
Hi-oh! From feminism to fangirling, the Jersey Ghouls cover all the bases of horror from a woman's perspective.
New episodes are uploaded every other Sunday.
Just search Jersey Ghouls to find us on social media and your favorite podcasting app.
I've listened to, I kid you not, probably 10 podcasts today. And at least in half of them, somebody dropped the line, "Oh, we were talking offline before we started recording." Why? Just hit record.
Gonna have to edit all that out.
Yep, that's all right.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sanctum Sanctorum podcast, where comics and Christ culture collide. I'm Chris.
I'm Joey.
And today is our very special Halloween episode. Are you excited about Halloween?
I am. I was just gonna say, do you? Because I know you like dressing up. I know you like trick-or-treating.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you got a kid and this embodies something new, like, do you guys group costume? Is it just individual? How do you guys go about Halloween?
All right, so last year, my wife's cousin had given my son a, she's a big fan of the Shrek movies, so she gave him a little onesie and a little hat to look like Shrek, so my wife did Fiona and I did Donkey.
There you go.
This year, my son is a little Elmo obsessed, so we may do like Sesame Street t-shirts and then get him a little Elmo costume. You know, so we're kind of playing it by ear. As he gets older and can like really choose his own stuff, I'm super down with family-oriented costumes. Now you got four of them. What about you? Do you do whole group
So
stuff?
we got 4 kids, and I have been saying it for now 8 years. My oldest is 8, and there's always a small child.
Right.
And I have said it consistently every year. We can be the Avengers because you have Ant-Man.
Oh yeah.
And I never get taken up on it, and I'm not getting taken up on it today, being Halloween. I am a prophet who is abandoned in his hometown.
Wow.
But no, we love walking around, and the kids love. I think they always forget, as much as they like trick-or-treating, they love answering the door even more.
Yeah.
So like we'll go out, and they come back, and then it's like, all right, let's give out candy.
As a kid, I definitely liked going to get candy. As an adult, though, like I would love to go and do a Halloween event, but like sitting outside on my porch and with a bowl of candy and like seeing all the kids come up dressed up, seeing the parents that get into it, it's like, oh, this is fun. I like that a lot. It's a lot of fun.
On some level, it actually restores my faith in humanity, because every 365 days, it's like, oh, there's nice people who care about their kids, and I don't see this in the news.
Yeah.
So I like Halloween.
I love it. Now, you're not the family that gives out like toothbrushes or raisins, right?
No.
Because you like yourselves and you like people around you. I would hope that that's not something you really want to infect the world with.
Ironically, my father-in-law is a dentist. His favorite holiday is Halloween. And no,
Oh,
he's
wow.
giving out the candy bars. So no toothbrushes, but
It's a good, well, because he knows it's getting business for him. That's why.
absolutely. We're excited for episode 3, where we are covering Ghost Rider. Chris, are you familiar with how bad of a movie this is?
How dare you, first of all? And I think what you meant to say is, am I familiar with the source material? Which, in fact, I am.
Yeah, we're gonna get to all of that, the source material, the horrendous attempt at a film this is, which I can't even pretend. Like, let's tip the hat. Like, I did not like it, but we're gonna get to all that. Chris, you got a cultural comic moment that we have to talk about.
I do, and it stems not only from comic books, but really from most pop culture in general. This, could be music, books, movies, TV. But it's the idea of, can you separate the art from the artist? All right,
Mm,
so we've seen a lot, over the last couple of years, especially in the news, and a lot with geek-oriented fandoms. J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, has some really controversial opinions about things. Jonathan
mm.
Majors, with some accusations that came his way, and Ezra Miller with some accusations and some footage that proved them. And they're not the only ones.
Forgot about that one.
Are you still able to does what they did, does their behavior, their opinions, their life choices have to prevent you from enjoying the work that they've put forth? Or because you don't agree with them, or because they did a horrible thing, does that mean you have to abandon everything that their fingers have touched? You know what I mean? So what are your thoughts on that?
It's a hard one for me because it really boils down to this idea of forgiveness, right? And you'd never say like, well, they did something to me personally. No, but their idea or the idea for me is that they have betrayed a public trust. Not that they're perfect, not that anybody assumes that they're perfect, but they have behaved in a manner and a way that has betrayed your level of expectation for someone in the public eye. Again,
Hmm.
not to be perfect, but that now has come into question where you're asking, is this what this person believes? Does this person share my values? In a way that you were not asking that question before. And in some weird psychological way, I think there is sort of this slight that has been done to us, the fans,
Hmm.
where we've elevated these people to these levels of hierarchy where they need to act in a way that's so above rapport. And when that doesn't happen, now we feel like we've been hurt and we've been betrayed and all this stuff. So what it really boils down to for me is like this idea of, can you forgive and forget? Can you recognize the humanity underneath the person, recognize that maybe, on their worst moment that happened to be filmed, the comment that happened to slip, it rubs you the wrong way, but we're here for the art. And I personally can't move on immediately, but I can move on eventually. For example, when the whole Ezra Miller thing happened, I was like, I'm not going to the theater for that. Just not going. But I bought the movie 6 months later when it was on sale. So, yeah, I can separate it, but I can't do it in the moment.
Okay.
And maybe that's not good. So maybe it's not separating it at all. Maybe it's just delaying the inevitable. But for me, there is an initial response of, I need to step back and I can't support what's going on.
Okay, so I have a couple of thoughts on that. The first one was saying, I'm not going to go to the theater to see The Flash, but
Hmm.
I'll buy it when it comes out. So one thought is, I have no problem with the work they do, but I won't give them my money anymore. Because
Mm,
however many people buy the Flash movie or products, he's going to get residuals from that, or
sure.
they are going to get residuals from that. So I don't want to seem like I'm supporting that person. And on the other hand, does it make a difference if it's not something where you see them? So if you can see, I'm wearing a Buffy the Vampire Slayer T-shirt right now, and there's a lot of things that came out about Joss Whedon being a very not great person in regards to women, in regards to his set behavior. But this was such an impactful show for me, and it's something that I deeply love and deeply cherish. Should that be taken away from me because of something he did? You know what I mean?
Mm.
Should Harry Potter is another one for me. It's a very it holds a very special place in my life. So should that mean it's less meaningful for me because they made bad choices? And if it is, where do you draw the line? You know what I mean? Like, okay, so I won't do it. Do I need to then get rid of all of the merchandise I might have? Do I need to burn the books or burn the DVDs or something like that? Who decides that?
It's a weird sort of virtue signal, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but like I remember when Cosby came out a couple years ago about all the nefarious things that he was doing. I remember my initial response was, okay, I have to get rid of all my Cosby DVDs and records. He's one of the most influential comedians for me.
Right.
And initially it was like, I can't have any of his stuff. Well, what is that? At least 5 years ago. And now I sort of wish I still had them because I'm still consuming the content virtually. But there's something in me immediately that responds like, I don't want to get associated with this. And that's a really interesting response that I think we see more from the fandom, where because we are such a tight-knit community, we instantly ostracize ourselves from the product, and then we talk about this concept of like, well, can you separate the art from the actor? Well, yeah, but what you're actually doing, and I'm saying you as me, what I'm actually doing is saying I don't want to get associated with those actions. So it's not about separating the art from the artist. It's more about, do people look at me the same way that they're looking at him right now?
And I would hope not, because I would think that I think that in geek culture it's more prevalent with things that have this rabid fan base. It would be
Yeah.
more prevalent, and when it comes to entertainment style things like movies, books, TV, music, comedy. But like I don't know what the life of Pablo Picasso was like. Like, I don't know what he did in his personal life. I don't know what his personal beliefs are. Should all of his pain, if it comes out that he did, he lived this terrible lifestyle, or he did this horrible thing to another person, even if I abhor the thing that he did, does that mean that all of his paintings should come down? They should be removed from every museum. They should remove him from all, art history books. And when you go take an art class or learn painting, we blacklist him completely. I don't think so, because I think that the work can stand for what it is, even if it comes out like Joss Whedon. He did a lot of very he wrote a lot of very strong female characters, but behind the scenes it seems that he did not really believe his own preaching almost. So does that mean that, like, women can't look at characters like Buffy or River or things like that as these iconic female characters, people to aspire to be? I don't think so. I don't think that I need to stop reading Harry Potter just because J.K. Rowling says things I don't agree with or does things I don't agree with. I think that the work should be able to stand on its own. Now, I think it could be different if it's something where you have to see that person. So maybe it would make it harder to watch, Ant-Man Quantumania, or, The Flash or the Justice League, because, these are,
Yeah.
it's not just, they wrote it and they're a crappy person, but I can still enjoy the product. Well, now I'm watching the product and I'm seeing their face, and now is that associating it in my head of like, I'm supposed to be watching Kang, but what I'm seeing is this guy who's accused of doing a horrible thing. So I
Exactly.
feel like that I guess could be something worth exploring more. But I think in general, You know, it it has to be all or nothing, and I don't think anybody's going to do all. You know what I mean? Like nobody's stopped watching every movie that Harvey Weinstein has ever had a whiff of participation in. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right. And I think, with it being our Halloween episode, I would sum it up by saying this. If the content haunts you, then you shouldn't consume it. So if you can't watch or think about any of the work that these artists have done with their flaws and with their less than perfect selves, if that clouds the way that you see those things, I personally would recommend disassociating with them, because I think even at their lowest moments,
mhm.
these artists' best intentions are to take you from a crappy place to a better place. And if their actions are clouding the ability to do that, then I think they would probably say, don't watch my movie. And so if it haunts you in a way that's like, I can't do it, then I wouldn't consume it.
I think that's a great thing. I would just say that to partner with that, if it haunts you and you don't want to consume this product anymore, you have my full support. But don't lump me in with them because it doesn't prevent my enjoyment of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Don't associate me with the actions of those people, because what they produced is still important to me. I'm not saying that what they did was good, but what they produced right here is something that means a lot to me, and I can't let go of that. So I think that as long as there's a
Totally.
give and take, that it's too much for you, that's fine. I support you. If it's not too much for me, I think I deserve your support as well.
And I think the geek community is historically good at supporting where you land with that, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's something that is especially now, with more sensitivity that's in our society. I think that's definitely true. But
But what do you think, listeners? Drop us a comment on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube about whether you can separate the actions of our celebrities when they fall less than perfect from the art that they create. We'd love to hear from you.
absolutely. But speaking of separating the art from the artist,
Ugh.
before we even get into the good, the bad, or the ugly, I have something I have something about this I need to get off my chest.
Before or after I plot synopsis?
Um, yeah, I guess you could plot synopsis first. It doesn't really make a difference. I wasn't trying to forget about it, but I guess it could come after. That's fine.
All right.
Go ahead,
As
hit
is our
us.
custom, cue the foreboding music. Here we go. When Johnny Blaze, a daredevil who apparently skipped class on how deals with the devil usually turn out, trades his soul to save dear old dad, things go up in flames. Literally. Instead of getting a world's best sun mug, Johnny wakes up as a flaming skeleton on a motorcycle, the Ghost Rider, now working as Satan's pile of regret. A fiery supernatural Uber driver hunting down sinners and demons like it's some sort of fiery game of hide and seek. And who knew? The fate of both the physical and supernatural world rests on a guy whose hair is literally on fire. Hop on your motorcycles, angels and demons, grab your holy water and your blazing saddles as Nick Cage plays Nick Cage pretending to be Nick Cage in Marvel's Ghost Rider. Dun dun dun!
All right, I gotta say, these get better as we go, but also this one felt like you were struggling to say it with any kind of like joy in your voice or any kind of happiness.
I'll admit to the audience, I watched it last night, which there's no, like, it wasn't going to get better if I sat with it longer. And I watched it really late and I wanted to text you, but the entire time I'm just like, Are you kidding me? How did I watch this a first time when it came out, and now it's like, what is happening
All right,
right now?
so that was my next question. I didn't know if this was the first time, this was your first
No,
experience with it.
no.
All right.
But what's the thing you wanted to say
Okay.
before we get into good, bad, and all of
Before we
that?
get into all of the opinions on it, so this movie obviously, well, but to jump in, it is directed by Mark Steven Johnson, who is also the director of the 2003 Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, and it
It
stars.
feels just like it.
It's got a feel. There's definitely a vibe
Mm-hmm.
to it, but it stars Eva Mendes, Sam Elliott, Peter Fonda, Wes Bentley, and yes, Nicolas Cage as our title character. Nicolas Cage makes a lot of diverse movies. Okay, now by genre, he's been in horror movies, he's been in Christmas movies, he's been in comedies, action, superhero movies. He's done,
Yeah,
romantic comedies, all kinds of stuff. He's
he's
been in
all
a
over
lot of
the
different
place.
stuff. And I think that people have very strong opinions both on both sides of Nicolas Cage is a terrible actor and Nicolas Cage is a good actor. But if you tell me that you don't, I don't mean you specifically, the out there on the internet, if you tell me that you don't have a favorite Nicolas Cage starring movie or at least featuring movie, you're a liar because everybody's got a Nicolas Cage movie that they love. It doesn't have to be this one, but
What is your Nick Cage?
what is my Nick Cage movie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a Nick Cage apologist. I like Nicolas Cage
Oh wow.
for sheer nostalgia. There was just
Uh-huh.
there was a time in my life where for whatever reason I got very attached to the movie Gone in 60 Seconds.
Interesting.
I've always loved the heist movie, that it's about a heist. It's a ragtag group of people and everybody comes in and they all have a special job. There's, the old generation and the new generation. It was the start of, actors like Giovanni Ribisi and Angelina Jolie, all kind of, these were breakout movies for them. I really like Gone in 60 Seconds.
Ironically, mine is National Treasure, but as you're saying this, Nick Cage has a very specific thing he does in movies, which is I have to go get a thing. He does it in this movie too. He's got
Yeah.
to get souls.
Well, I mean, even in
Nick Cage gets stuff.
Even in I don't know if you ever saw ever saw he's in two Christmas movies, Trapped in Paradise and The Family Man, and even in both of those movies, he has to get out of the town he's in, and he has to get his old life back. So
He
he's
knows how
always
to
got to
do
get something.
one thing.
Yes, and it's be Nicolas Cage, but to me that's part of
Yeah.
the appeal is that he never changes. He doesn't have to change. You know what you're getting when you go into it. So
Oh, and we got a lot out of
also,
this film.
also leave us a comment about what your favorite Nicolas Cage movie is, because I want to know. I want to know what it
I
is, and I'm
don't.
excited to hear about it.
I don't want to know. There is some good things out of this film.
Probably more from me than for you than from you.
Yeah, so I tell you what, why don't I go first? Because I've only got two of them. The first is that the transformation effects are still pretty good.
Yeah,
When he transforms into Johnny, into the Ghost Rider, when his head turns into a skull and the flames come up, that CGI is still pretty good 17 years later. Like I was like, all right, bad pun, got to give the devil his due here. That still holds up.
Now, do you prefer, because there's a couple of different kinds of transformations. There's one where he's up against the wall and he gets all flamey, and then
He
there's one where
pops.
it's like a slow deterioration. Do you have a preferred transformation method?
The slow from a as a video editor, I don't have a ton of animation skills,
Mhm.
although I have dabbled in it. it's a lot harder to do the slow one and to do it well because you're working frame by frame by frame and everything has to be flawless. And from what I see, this is where Marvel really started like, oh, we can dabble in the effects realm. It's not just all practical because this is a character, we can't set a human head on fire. So the slow transformation of watching skin deteriorate and the flame pop up, seeing like even some of the demon mouths where it's clear that they need to go to the dentist.
Oh, when you see
That was pretty cool.
Mephisto and Blackheart when it like just kind of appears there,
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and it wasn't very long, but it was done tactfully. Again, like I just walked out going, CGI was pretty good.
All right, that's fair.
And the other thing I have is there's 3 actors in here who are phenomenal.
Okay, good. You have 3. Oh, I only had 2 that were standouts. So go ahead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. I think we agree on this. Wes Bentley is excellent.
Okay. That he was not on my thing.
Oh, really?
He's good, but he wasn't like he didn't embody the role for me the way these other 2 do.
He's great with what he was given. Now, again, that doesn't make the movie good. It's just these guys did what they could do with what they were handed from a script perspective.
Right.
And I think Peter Fonda is excellent.
Yes. Oh my, wow. Chef's kiss at that casting.
He was great, and so was Sam Elliott.
That's my other guy.
Too. It's like classic Hollywood that decided, oh, here's an IP that's not really an IP yet. Like up until what is this, 2007?
Yeah.
So up until this point, we've got 2 Fantastic Four movies. We've got
A couple
3
of
Spider-Man,
a couple of Spider-Man, a couple of X-Men,
Daredevil,
Elektra.
It's the early Marvel movies, and
Yeah.
these big name Hollywood actors say, "Yeah, I'm going to take a risk." Now the script is not there, but we'll get to the bad in a bit. But with what they were given, these actors did phenomenal.
Yeah, and it was before it was popular to be in a comic book movie, good or bad. Now.
Right.
When it was still like, this is for a very niche audience. There's a lot of people going to go and see this. And they still were like, yeah, I know I'm a legendary actor, but I'll play the devil in this movie about a weird flaming superhero. Okay, thanks.
All they had to do for Sam Elliott was like, "Hey, we want you to play every character you've ever played. Is that cool?"
I mean, listen, opening, I don't even have this as one of my good, but opening the movie with Sam Elliott's beautiful tones, distraught.
Totally.
He could have been reading the phone book at the beginning of this movie, and I still would have been like, that was a really compelling setup, I gotta say.
I was waiting for him to go Coors.
Coors. That's not like I wish did you ever see Parks and Rec when he was when he was in that show briefly?
Oh yeah, the
as
other
the
Ron.
other as the other Ron. Like man, that was just perfect. All right,
That's all I got.
All right. Well, you had 2 of mine. Peter Fonda as Mephisto, Sam Elliott as caretaker. They were great. The another actor that I thought was really good, and this ties into one of my bads a little bit. But I thought young Roxanne was really like she looked like Eva Mendes. What she would have looked like as a teenager. I have felt that from
All
the
right.
first time I saw it. And I appreciate it. It bothers me in movies sometimes when they cast somebody to play the character young and somebody to play the character as they are currently, and it's like there is no way that person grew up to be that person.
No.
And I feel
now
like
they just de-age them.
I feel like with Roxanne, they did a good job at that. Well, now they can do the de-aging. They didn't have that technology in '07. So I appreciated that. Another appreciation that I had was Peter Fonda was in a famous movie called Easy Rider.
Yep.
And Ghost Rider's bike, Grace, was modeled after his bike in Easy Rider.
Oh,
so when he and Johnny Blaze first meet and he's like, nice bike.
Nice bike.
That's a little like, hey, because I rode that bike. I like those little, you know me from a thing and I'm going to reference it and I'm going to wink at you about it. I like that.
The reward for having done your homework.
Exactly. It feels like a little reward for being like, I've watched movies for a really long time, and you appreciate me, the fan. Thank you. Something that Nicolas Cage does that he brings to a lot of his movies is that he will create these very strange idiosyncrasies about whatever character he's playing. It's very present in this, and it's very present in I don't know if you ever saw the movie Matchstick Men, where in Matchstick Men he plays a con man, but he's a con man who he only eats tuna out of a can. He refuses to let people take the Lord's name in vain in his presence. These weird, just little like things that for him help create a character. He does that with Johnny Blaze too, with the only eating jelly beans out of the martini glass, and getting pumped up to do his stunts by listening to the Carpenters. And I like those things. Those are fun. I feel like they're little ways of being like, I can, this is a pre-existing character. People have expectations for it, and these are little things I can do to make it kind of my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, here's the memento of my take on this character that you'll remember.
Right, exactly. So like, even if other people play it, you'll remember like, oh, remember when he did like these things as that? They should have repeated that or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I had kind of with you with the transformation and the design of Ghost Rider. I actually liked the design. I thought the design was pretty good. I mean, there's not much to it. But I thought the design was pretty good with the big spikes and the spiked gloves, the bike design. I really liked it. Um, and then as far as things like that I liked, you cannot tell me that Caretaker and Ghost Rider riding through the desert with this like country rock soundtrack behind them was not such a badass scene and so cool to watch. Come on. Come on, for real? That
Are we
didn't
on
like
bad
get
yet?
you going?
Not even close.
Oh, I thought that was super cool. I think they missed an opportunity to make a prequel of Sam Elliott as the Western Ghost Rider. They make a Western Ghost Rider movie and have him play that,
Yeah,
because I think it's better. I like the horseback better than the motorcycle. I think it's just cool. I don't know.
that's
I think it's
that
cool.
speaks to one of the issues I have. But do you have any more good?
Okay, so the other good things I have are, I think that it's very standalone. And this was before they were doing shared universes, and there were no comic book movies that had shared universes yet, at least not obviously. And kind of appreciated that, at the time, even though it got kind of knocked critically, you went into it, you didn't need to see anything beforehand. You didn't necessarily expect to see anything after. There was no TV. You didn't really need familiarity with the source material. You could just go
Right.
in, watch this standalone thing, this contained story, and enjoy just this one piece of thing, instead of being like, well, to watch that one, you really should watch these 9 other things, or you're not going to understand everything. And especially in the world we have today, where you need the streaming stuff, the TV stuff, all the previous and future movies. I liked that this was on its own. Here's our offering. This is what it is. I
Yeah.
liked that. And I think it's more fun than some of the more modern comic book movies, both DC and Marvel. So I'm not, just being a Marvel hater, but sometimes they take themselves a little too seriously. Sometimes they don't know how to like wink at the audience, and I think that Ghost Rider does. I think it has fun with what it is, without making fun of itself. I think that it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I appreciate that. So
All right.
that was my good stuff. I think I had a more positive appreciation for it than you did, because I
You
feel like you got a long
you
list of bad
definitely
coming.
did. Oh boy, do I! And we're gonna get to all that, but not before we take a break and have a word from our sponsor.
Can't wait.
This episode is sponsored by Dr. Doom's Conflict Resolution Services for when diplomacy needs a little push. Are you tired of boring negotiations that go nowhere? Sick of polite handshakes that don't get things done? Introducing Dr. Doom's Conflict Resolution Services, where your disagreements disappear to Latveria and beyond. Whether it's your boss, that guy who always parks in your spot, or the dog who keeps pooping on your lawn, Dr. Doom Conflict Resolution Services offers cutting-edge methods to settle disputes. And by cutting edge, we mean literally lasers, force fields, and robotic minions at the ready. Every consultation comes with a free metal mask for additional intimidation, and they're experts in hostile takeovers. Diplomacy not your style? Neither is ours. The doctor will see you now. Dr. Doom's Conflict Resolution Services for when diplomacy needs a little push.
Very nice. Very, very nice. I like that. You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I might. There may be times where I need to put their services into hiring for myself.
Totally. Absolutely. All right, man. The time has come.
Times get. Listen,
How many bad things do you have?
I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. There is plenty of bad things that are in this movie. I just am able
So
and
many.
willing to overlook them.
All right.
Now I want to hear your bad first, but I want to just say Stan Lee did not create Ghost Rider, but he did give Johnny Blaze his name. And you can tell that that's a Stan Lee name. We got a guy who's a skull on fire who works for hell, but he needs a secret identity. What should it be? How about Johnny Blaze? Come on, Stan. Come on.
Yeah. Such a Stan Lee thing. All right.
Let's go.
This is my main big issue with the entire project. It is and then storytelling. Now, for our listeners who are not familiar, when you write a story or a screenplay or a novel or anything, what you want to do is have because storytelling. And then storytelling has no consequences. It has no development. It's just beat after beat after beat. For example, Johnny's in the family business, and then he needs to run away, and then his dad is sick, and then the devil shows up, and then he heals him. It's just beat after beat after beat. There's no character motivation. There's no development. You just find yourself in these places, and then you're like an hour in, and you're like, whoa, how the heck did we get here? And that's this whole movie. It's just and then storytelling.
Yeah.
And to me, that's not interesting.
That's almost like lazy writing.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like I said, these actors who I really enjoyed and applauded for their performance did the best with what they had, but they're just a part of the and then. Like even, I think I have it later on, like, why is Blackheart so against his dad? Never gets said. He's just antagonist for antagonist's sake because and then he showed up. But it's not like you find out why.
Well, you also kind of see this moment of when Mephisto tells him, you know, I'm going to send my rider after you. And he's like, oh, your rider, your great occasion. He's got a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
Then later when he confronts him for the first time, he like punches him through a wall and laughs as if it's like, ha, that was the killing blow.
Yeah.
And then is surprised when he gets up. It's like, that's some inconsistency.
Like there's no and I think I would have believed him more and the motivations behind him had I known some of this stuff. Like, you know, I'm not a writer by any means. I just listen to a lot of podcasts, but the opportunity I saw was, okay, we need a flashback scene where a father and son have a falling out, but then you realize it's actually the devil and his son, and Blackheart spawns off, taking a third of the angels. You know, you get another good versus evil with God and Satan parallel. And then you sort of are like, yeah, it just runs in the family. And so now the son is going to take over. But the thing that comes in the way is the son that the devil never had, and that's the Ghost Rider.
Also, we're meant to root for the devil here.
Right there, I wrote a better story. We
We're
are.
also meant to root for the devil here, which is a little strange.
We are, but we don't know why.
Hmm.
And that's my main issue with the entire thing.
Okay.
Let me keep going.
Go ahead.
I'm 20 minutes in and I don't care. There was no, and it does go back to my first point, but there's like no character connection. They're just sort of, it's Nick Cage on the screen. It's Eva Mendes who shows up. Like, why do I care that he left her in the rain? Like, it's sad, but is there really a relationship that I'm supposed to intuit that's there, that like this is the devastating thing that later on in the movie when she's really mad at him and he's really happy to see her, I'm supposed to call back to? No, it's young love. And maybe it's just supposed to be young love, but you spend an hour saying nothing. So it's it's the same thing with the motivation with his dad, right? Like, that relationship is stupid. He was about to bail on his dad and leave with the girl. He reads one letter about his dad getting sick, and he never speaks to his dad about it. He just decides, I need to save him. And he makes a deal with the devil
Well, he
for
doesn't
his
even
dad.
decide I need to save him. He just it feels like he
Yeah.
makes the decision to not leave anymore. It's like, well, now I can't leave
Right.
because what kind of jerk am I going to look like for abandoning my dad at a carnival when he's got cancer?
When I never followed up with, hey, is that a legit letter? What does it mean? Have you been feeling no good? Like, what's going on? And then
How bad is it? Are we getting treatment? Like, what's the
Right.
plan here? Do you have end of life preparation?
And then dad dies, but then everything from the rest of the movie is fueled by his love for his dad. It's like, that doesn't connect at all.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
What else? Oh yeah, okay. I get that people change and people are allowed to change. But what is proposed at the beginning of the movie is that this is a soft-hearted kid who's just fallen into the family business, and now he's an arrogant jackwagon.
Okay, yeah,
there's a long progression.
Yeah, that's one of mine too.
But it's like, how did we get the character of Johnny when we're told at the beginning of the movie that he's the sensitive heartthrob who loves his girlfriend?
Well, also with that, are there that many he's in stadiums filled with screaming fans. They're holding up signs. Women are lifting up their shirts.
It's NASCAR.
Men are spearing, or are spilling their drinks. They want to, he is, men want to be me, women want to be with me, kind of thing. Like, he's just a stuntman. Like,
Yeah.
Look, it's awesome to see somebody jump over 5 helicopters in a football field or whatever, but this seems excessive. That he's like Michael Jackson level. Johnny Blaze don't do interviews. Yeah,
Right.
it seems
Like,
a little excessive.
Also, Chris, name me 5 stuntmen.
Evil Knievel Jr., the guy who got paralyzed on Harry Potter.
All right.
I don't know.
There was more than I would have done.
The woman from the Quentin Tarantino movie who rides the top of the car. Yeah, I can't. And none of them are to the level of Johnny Blaze.
Right, and it's like, okay, he started out in a circus and then his dad died. Was he really better than his dad to where now he's got world acclaim? I don't think so.
Well, I think, okay, just to play devil's advocate. I think that he could have achieved more fame even coming from the carnival circuit because he didn't have to worry about dying ever.
Sure.
I think he came to realize that, because of this deal I made, I can't be killed, so I can make them more and more outrageous and more death-defying because I will always be death-defying.
Yeah.
So I think that's the idea. That's the thinking behind that, but I don't think it was well executed.
I have written probably 6 times, why is any of this happening? So that's its own thing. Why is killing demons on the same level a priority as stopping a mugging like a hero? Like, is he after the souls of the damned, or is he trying to stop shoplifting? What is he doing? Even he doesn't know. And I guess that's a good question to ask you. In the comic, because I'm not familiar with the comic, in the comic, when Johnny Blaze turns into the Ghost Rider, does he have autonomy? Or is he just the hellbound minion who has to do what the devil's telling him to do? Because the answer to this question frames the rest of the movie.
Well, he does have some autonomy, but the so in the comic, the spirit of vengeance is I think it's Zarathos is the demon, is the spirit of vengeance that literally possesses him. So it's kind of like Jason Blood and Etrigan.
Okay.
Um, so he does have some autonomy, but he's drawn to evil. So it's not like he could like he. It's almost like spider spidey sense of evil.
Yeah.
So he did have a mission from the devil, but as he was walking by, it's like, oh, I'm like drawn to this like really bad person, because
Yeah.
it wasn't about just the mugging, because you see that when he does the penance stare on that guy, it was
Hmm.
he did a lot of really nasty things, more than just mugging a young Rebel Wilson, by the way.
I thought that was her.
Yeah.
That's
Did,
awesome.
didn't remember that. Only when I saw it was it like, why does she look? Oh, pitch perfect.
I was like,
Okay.
that looks like Rebel. But that's really my question. Like, how does he know how to do his job? There's no training montage. There's no spider like, hey, up and away web. There's no Superman learning to fly scene. There's just now you're the demon rider.
Because
Like,
it's something else. And I understand what you're saying, because we're not used to that in a
yeah.
superhero movie. We're not used to there not being a learn how to work with your powers, learn how to work as a team, whatever. But
Hmm.
it's not like he gained superpowers. He his body gets taken over by an evil spirit, or
Right.
spirit, a vengeful spirit. That then is like, he kind of, Johnny Blaze takes a back seat, and the spirit is kind of driving the train.
I think the dialogue is horrendous.
All right, horrendous. It's not horrendous. It's not great, but
Horrendous.
all right.
It's goofy. The why of the film actually does come in the middle of Act Two, but I feel like it's too late because now I'm not invested in the characters, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And that's just a building thing. But I wanted to go back to your Western thing, and this is my last thing.
Okay.
This movie is tonally chaotic. It's a Western, but it's a NASCAR homage. It's a Marvel film, but it's not a superhero movie. It's a horror, but it wants to be a comedy. Like, it's too many things.
Yeah. No, I
It's
feel
got to
that.
pick a lane.
I feel that it can even have more than one lane, but it could have used some paring down a little bit. You're right.
Maybe two.
Yeah.
But, that's why when you say, oh, when they saddled up, didn't that just get you going? Like, no, because I didn't know where I was supposed to get going. Like, were we going to have a shootout? Should I have geared up for that? Or was Ricky Bobby about to show up? Was there going to be some more spirit stuff? Or were we going to make a John C. Reilly comedy? Like, it doesn't know what it wants to be.
Okay, so one of my bad. So even though I love that scene, because I think that scene is really cool, that is also one of
Mhm.
my bad, because why did Caretaker go with him? He didn't stay for the. He didn't stay
One
for the
last
fight,
ride.
right? But for what? Unless it was just to show him where San Venganza was. But I
Because
feel
the
like,
screenplay, the screenplay had him contractually obligated.
plus Ghost Rider would have been drawn to the where Blackheart was. He would have like
Yeah,
felt that pull. So there was
he don't need
that was a
you.
pointless, as cool as it, for me, as cool as it looked visually, it made very little sense for him to go. And I remember feeling that when I first saw it, of like, that was cool, but why did he go? Like, it would have made more sense if he went, and then two Ghost Riders versus one Son of the Devil would have been made more sense. But
It would have made more sense. However, if they both show up now, who do we root for? Well, we don't know because we're not invested in the characters,
Mm.
right? So, like, yeah, that would have been cool. But because the Obi-Wan character shows up midway, sort of alludes to the fact that he knows some stuff, but never really gives it to him until right at the top of the third act. Now it's like, well, yeah, I really want to root for Sam Elliott, but at the same time, this is a Nick Cage movie, so you can go with him, but you can't do anything.
Well, also, I feel like some of the information he gives him doesn't matter. So, like
No.
When Nicolas Cage is getting tended after his first battle with the hidden with the elemental demons, he's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I fought this guy made of water and another guy made out of the wind and all this stuff. And Sam Elliott, kind of like Blackheart does early on, is like, oh, you mean the hidden? They're nasty pieces of work. And like he seems very like these are formidable foes, but I feel like Ghost Rider dispatches each of them pretty easily. he
Fairly
he
simple.
has probably the hardest time with the water one,
Yeah.
but that's only because he's not Ghost Rider at the time that it happens. But
Mm-hmm.
when he's in skull form, he seems to get rid of these guys very easily, so they don't seem I think it was a really cool idea that was wasted. I think you could have done something really cool with these elemental features, especially since our
Yeah.
hero is fire and you have the other three elements there. I think it could have been really cool, but was a little wasted. Um, so at the end when Ghost Rider does his penance stare
Mm-hmm.
to Blackheart after he takes in all the souls of San Venganza, why in the penance montage do we see Blackheart's victims? So it's supposed so the reason that the penance stare now works on him is because he has 100 souls inside of his body. We should
Yeah.
see the evil that those souls committed, but what we see instead is Wes Bentley do at the biker bar and killing all of them, and Mac and killing Mac, and so
Mm-hmm.
we saw a repeat of all the terrible things that Blackheart did throughout the movie, but that doesn't make any sense because we shouldn't see the things he did because he did those without a soul. We should see the evil that the souls of those 100 souls committed. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But again, I can't speak for the screenwriters, but the mentality is we're defeating the bad guys, so we need to call to account all the bad things he did. But again, all you need is 5 seconds of thought, and you're like, well, wait a second. Chris's point actually makes sense.
Yeah. So the last couple of bad things I had are very specific scenes. I don't like this in any movie because they never get it right. But when they zoom in on the young version of the character's eyes and then transition it to the old version of the character's eyes, the eyes never
Never do that
match
right.
up. The eyes never, the facial structure never really matches up. So just don't do that. I will buy that this is young Johnny Blaze and this is old Johnny Blaze. That's fine. I'm in. I'm all in with that. That's fine. Don't give the transition is what throws me, and that's gonna take me right out.
10 years later.
Right, that's fine. Right, give me a blank years later. That would be fine. Also, okay. When Roxanne is being stood up for dinner, and she pulls the
Yep.
waiter down, and it's like, "You think I'm pretty, right?" And he goes, "Eh."
Nah.
You shut your mouth right now. That is so unrealistic.
Well, not only that, but
Ridiculous.
it's just it's a cheap laugh.
It is a cheap laugh, but it's a cheap laugh that has no basis in reality.
No, no.
The last two things are the shootout with the cops. The fact that they would all fire their weapon at something they don't understand with a civilian bystander standing in front of some of those guns, ridiculous.
Right.
And when Johnny Blaze is put into prison, like when he's put into like the holding cell, why did
Yep.
all these guys suddenly gang up on him? Like what?
I thought
Like
the same
maybe
thing.
maybe one or two, but all of a sudden these guys are like, oh yeah, this guy is famous. Maybe we should mess him up. What? Why?
You got a cool
That
jacket. I think
is
I'll kick you in the ribs.
that whole thing was it like I again it was an ends to a means to an end, but it
Yeah.
was why one or two maybe. Also, why is that one kid innocent? How do you know he's innocent?
He goes in prison and then they beat him up and then he gets out and then the kid walks free and then
Yeah, yeah.
shut up.
Also, you're leaving all the blame on that kid.
Yeah.
All these guys, he's the only one, not who didn't just get the crap beat out of them. And he's like, so what happened? He turned into a skull monster and killed everybody. Okay,
Yeah.
let's lock this kid up in the nut house because you know. So that's it for my bad.
Not great.
That's it for my bad. I think it's time to delve into a very there's a lot of heaven and hell and the devil and spirits going on in this. So what kind of thoughts do you have about our religious theological impacts here?
Cut over to spiritual stuff. There was this idea that, like, the premise of the movie is set up because Johnny doesn't really know what he's getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this down that the deals that we make in naivety often bring us heartache for years to come. And, I've got plenty of examples in my life where I made a choice and I didn't have all the information and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I thought I did. And there are still ways that those decisions either haunt me or have left me with a limp. Not physically, but just
Mm-hmm.
like I still feel the impacts of those decisions. And it brought to mind, there's this verse in the Proverbs that says there's a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. And it's sort of talking about much bigger, eternal matters. And I think that there's a place for that. And obviously that's what the verse is talking about. But I think it also applies pretty metaphysically as well, like that there are choices that need to be made in our lives, and making those choices without wisdom or discernment can seem really appealing at the time, but it always leads to painful consequences. That those things,
They're rash.
yeah, they lead and they shape us, they mold us, and they mold our lives. And so I think the invitation for us from this master of cinema is to take stock in how we make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have all the information? Can you slow down? Some things, don't require immediacy and rashness. Could you change the trajectory of your life if you took a beat and thought things out?
Mm-hmm.
There's an idea that you have in your head that it brings you something. Does it actually bring you something? Or does, like the verse says, does it lead to a death? Maybe not physical death, but the death of a dream, the death of an opportunity, the death of a relationship. Like, without discernment, we can very easily end up with a deal with the devil, so to speak, and how that impacts not only us, but those around us.
Yeah. And that's really good. And rather than commenting on that, I'm gonna jump right into mine because I think it marries
Yeah,
really well to it. That's actually the
perfect.
same verse that I have is from Proverbs. Because for me, I was really the scene that really struck me was towards the end when caretaker says to Johnny Blaze, yes, you made a deal with the devil, but you did it for the right reasons. You did it for love. You didn't do it for greed. So maybe that puts God on your side. Maybe that puts the power of right on your side. And, that should be your motivation for going into this battle. And I think that was a really nice line, but does the end really justify the means? Like you said, that verse in Proverbs says, there's a way that's right for a man to go, but at the end there's a way that seems right for a man to go, but in the end it leads to death. So the point is not to do things our way to get what God calls us to, but to wait and see what way he's going to guide us. So yes, Johnny made this deal with the devil for a good reason. I love my dad. I don't want anything to happen to him. I want him to not be sick anymore. That is a really great reason. But does that mean that a deal with the devil was still a good idea? You know what I mean? So
Sure.
just because he did it for a good reason instead of greed, like Carter Slade did, does that suddenly mean like, your contract with the devil isn't as bad as mine is because you did it for a righteous reason? It just feels like we have faulty judgment. So how do we discern what a right reason is? Because a right reason for me may not be an actual right reason. It might still be a selfish reason because I have faulty judgment. So
Well, and that's what I was going to say too. It's like either way, whether you did it for the right reason or you didn't do it for the right reason, you still have a deal with the devil, right? Like you still have that contract.
right, you still did the thing, even if your motivation was pure. You still did a bad thing.
Right. So I think, similar to the comic cultural thing, like it's almost like a script we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better about making a bad choice. Right? Like,
Mm,
okay, I made this terrible choice, but I did it for the right reason. Therefore, let's ask the question, do the ends justify the means? Well, some things are
mhm.
black and white, and you can just say, no, that was the wrong thing. Yeah, but I did it for the right reasons. Like that old paradoxical question, like, would you steal a loaf of bread to save your dying family? Well, I don't know. I mean, like I remember the Tony Stark line in the first Avengers film. You're not the guy who's gonna lay down on the wire, and he goes, "Well, I think I just cut the wire." It's this idea that we just sort of we try to change the paradigm, and in doing so, we actually have convinced ourselves that what we've done isn't actually that bad.
Right, isn't actually that bad. And are there degrees to the badness of things? Of course there are.
Sure.
But at the same time, who makes the decisions that your means to an end was okay, but my means to an end was not? Because what I did was relatively worse than what you did, according to who? And we know what it should be according to, but I think that if you do anything that like with selfish uh reasons behind it, even if it's for something good, it just seems like you can own it, but I don't think you can really justify it.
And you get into the semantics, exactly what you were just saying about, like, well, what means uh what makes what I did worse than what you did, and right reasoning and all this other stuff. All of that summed up is literally the verse, which is there is a way that seems right.
Right. And for you, it's what's worse, what's bad for you may not be as bad for me. So then it becomes it's relative.
Exactly.
Whatever the criteria is relative.
Which is so, not that we want to get legalistic or even just black and white about an incredibly gray concept, but like
Oh yeah, yeah.
that's why to me it's like I don't have to be the arbiter of justice,
Hmm.
and God gets to decide what is and is not right. He's given us his law, he's given us his son as a means of covering all the complexity, and it's just like, look, I'm not going to deny you a relationship if you've done these things, but you haven't done these things. Jesus came to cover all of it. Jesus died for all of it. And that way we don't have to play the semantics game. But I
Hmm.
think the invitation that you're so brilliantly pointing out is like, when we do that, when we do start playing the game of, am I as bad as that person? Now it's a comparison thing. And that just leads to a life of lack and a life of constantly wondering, am I good enough? Where that question has been answered in Christ.
Right. And that's why I think that scene sounds great but is still problematic because it's like
Absolutely.
you didn't do it for greed like me, you did it for love. You both still made a deal with the devil though.
You both still made a crappy movie.
Yeah, crappy movie. All right.
You want to rate this cinematic experience?
I mean, I'm a little afraid that if I do, you're going to think less of me, but
I won't judge. I will slander, but I won't judge.
I mean, look, for me, I don't know if it's the nostalgia, if it was the time period of like, I've been a geek my whole life and it was just so fun to see, like, wow, what a deep cut. They're making a whole movie about a character. This isn't, one of your, heavy hitters. Ghost Rider is such a what a deep cut, for the uninitiated.
Sure.
And so I look back fondly on it. I like Nicolas Cage. For me, this is a Pattinson. It's an okay movie. It's not great. It's not even good. It has its problems, but I think it's an easy watch. It's a fun watch. It's something you put on in the background and kind of tune in and out of. So for me, it's a Pattinson. It is an okay movie by me.
I gave it an Adam West.
Really?
It is so campy and stupid. Now, I agree with you. It is a fond watch when I've got nothing else to watch, and I mean nothing else to watch. I will not watch this again. I think the execution was flawed. They had a great IP, and they didn't really give it justice. And unfortunately, now, I'm not blaming you for this, but geeks who had the nostalgia factor
Mm-hmm.
will claim Nicolas Cage is the pinnacle of this character in the way that Toby is the pinnacle Spider-Man and Hugh is the pinnacle Logan, and because it's all sort of the same time, we're going to label him as the great and the OG Ghost Rider when I don't think they hit this by a mile. I give it 0 out of 5 flames.
All right, look, OG Ghost Rider, yes. Pinnacle of the character, no. I think that it could be.
No.
You know what I was reading today is that originally Johnny Depp was attached
Was he?
to like, but before this version of it came to light when they were initially discussing it, Johnny
Yeah.
Depp was expressed a lot of interest in being a part of it. So that
He
could
could
have
do it
been
now.
the pinnacle Johnny Blaze, but I don't think that. I think he's a version, but he's not the version.
And because of that, Adam West for me.
All right, so bad it was good. So you had more fun than you thought, but you didn't
Yep.
watch a masterpiece by any
But that
means.
don't make it great.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I honestly thought I would have been more shocked if you had made it forgettable. Because I don't think it's
Yeah.
forgettable, but you know, so bad it's good.
Oh,
That's
I'll
fair.
forget
I
it.
could be on board with that. That's fair.
Yeah, similar to ironically similar to a lot of things that came out in this vein at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot, because again, people were just getting their feet wet, and so a lot of those movies were either forgettable or so bad they're good, or you look at them through a nostalgia lens, which I will readily admit that is definitely. I at least got one eye of nostalgia when watching this. So
I like it. But listeners, what did you guys think? Leave us a comment on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can also comment on this video on YouTube and give us your thoughts about the flaming rider of doom that is Nicolas Cage.
please do. We wanna hear all your thoughts. We want to interact with you. We want you to disagree with us, agree with us. Mostly me. But
Yep.
if you're ready to wrap this up, Joseph, I'm ready to wrap it up.
Let's call it. I think it can go to hell.
Well, remember, kids, if you touch the Carpenters or that chimp show again, we're gonna have a scrap on our hands. We'll see you next time. Speaking of listening, before we get started, have you ever heard of the Wolves of Glendale?
No.
They're a comedy band and they have a song called The Gym. In the song The Gym, they mention The Rock, which means that they know who The Rock is by The Rock, which means they like wrestling, which means they like fandoms, which means they connect.
You sure it's not The Rock, like Jesus?
Well, they say even The Rock has a cheat day, so I'm not sure Jesus has a cheat day.
What would Jesus's cheat day be?
It's like I could see him like sitting there like with the other disciples, like, I made John eat locusts one time. You guys want to get a pizza? It's my cheat day.